Welcome to a series so addicting, even Markiplier subscribe. In here, we'll be discussing about a tale of love, loss, and sacrifice. A single game that flips the entire FNAF timeline upside down its head and recontextualized beloved characters, which is mainly Henry and Emily. We will finally be solving FNAF using only the most recent game, Secret of the Mimic. We start with Mr. Murray, who is Edwin's dad, and decided to open up a business. And what did it do? We don't know. Could be selling us 3D printed chickens for all we know. Bioengineered food. And soon, this man got himself a wife by giving the most OP raise ever. And soon, Murray has a son named Edwin, who eventually grown up to work in the company. There, he meets a co-worker that he's been simping for some time now. Her name is Fiona. Yes, that's right, Fiona. And he finally confesses his love to her through a machine called Helpy, which he awkwardly goes about it, but don't worry, because the best plans are the ones that have no plan. And then scraps those plans. Those are the greatest plans when they get scrapped. That's even better. Better. As Edwin met her as a puppeteer who would work with puppets, he exclaims that he needs her voice for a new machine that would soon be called Helpy. The couple would work on other projects, and eventually they decided to get married. But tragedy was right around the corner, as Edwin's father passed away. Yet before leaving, he tells Edwin not to trust a company that he had prior relations with. Five Nights at Freddy's. Though Edwin did not realize what his father truly meant by those words, after the funeral, Edwin decided to create his own projects, such as the Stay Up Latte Coffee, the Mycelium Men, Murray Magic Coat Rack. Yet all of these have one thing in common. They do their job almost too good. The Mycelium Men are just Alexa if she could actually talk back to you. The Stay Up Latte is just a robot AI that makes lattes, which some might say is a smart coffee, And the Murray Magic Coat Rack would just grow larger to the point where it would cause harm to any civilian, including this guy. Feeling a bit despair and broken, Edwin decided to go to his wife's workplace, an event called Fall Fest that would host costume masks from a company soon to be Freddy Fazbear. He was so impressed and inspired that he decided to rebrand his father's old workshop to Murray's Costume Manor, in which it would make costume suits for clients. And one that wanted him as a potential client, it was Henry and William, as they would hire Murray to work on making the FNAF animatronics as a concept in which he would be compensated through contracts. Well, Edwin would. Even Fiona joined in on the fun and creating a mascot creature called Chica, in which they were a Chica animal theme with the bib of "Let's Eat," along with her friendly cupcake that she carries with her on hand. Though Edwin grew busy in his work, often neglecting his own child, Dave. Though Fiona insists that he not miss any birthday days, but he has to lock in for his business, so he's probably gonna miss a few days. Maybe one, maybe two, maybe three. And soon he started to work on animatronic and spring lock suits and experimenting what would be cost effective to make for the manufacturer that the consumer would be none the wiser. And for a time, everything was going good until it all started going downhill. As Fiona would be last seen going to a fall fest where it was burned down to the ground. Some would say it was by accident, but I say it was a conspiratorial plot to take over Edwin and destroy him as a human being. And who, you ask, would do that? Why, William Afton. Maybe it was a three-way triangle or a love affair, but nevertheless, Fiona dies at Fall Fest, and Edwin can barely process the events that have transpired. He doesn't even know how he's going to tell his son that his mother is no longer with him. He cries and sobs, begging for anything, for a savior, for someone to save him from such torment. And such creature was listening and hearing such plea. The mycelium men, they heard him. How he needed someone to take care of his son David, and how he'll have never known a mother that loved him. And they answered in mimicking Fiona, or someone that sounds like her. He then wonders how he can give David the right caretaker, and so he thinks about how to give life to a machine. After sorting out the kinks, wirings, and gizmos, he creates something that goes beyond any form of his creations or projects. The Mimic, or known as Machine Initiation Memory Intel Chip. After showcasing to David, his son is hesitant about the robot being able to be a good babysitter, but Edwin insists that Dave give it a shot. And thus M1 was now Dave's new mom, replacing Fiona. And how she would cater to all his birthdays. And one day, Edwin decided to make a special gift for his son, in which it would be a special playground, one where his lawyer warned him that he should not follow through on this procedure. But Edwin doesn't care. The company is doing well for right now, and so he showcases his son's birthday present to Dave, where he is memorized, especially by a ball. But on his 5th birthday party, Dave dies after a horrific event, most likely from William Afton again, mourning the loss of such events and not knowing what to do. But Fiona, M1, knew what to do. Put their son back together. And so he had to build a machine for his Fiona to inhabit mixes, or known as mimic extraction, in an emergency system. And he puts Fiona in this giant computer deep below ground, but Edwin still had to deal with finishing the FNAF contract and finally be financially free to gamble it all away and then do it over again. Or maybe that's all, I don't know, could be. Wait, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, Henry, who is good friends with Edwin, asked him to make changes to making the spring lock safer, though it didn't really go according to plan, as there are spring lock Freddy and Bonnie that are very dangerous. But Edwin discovered something more devious than 1 second change to a product. Competition. As William often sent out emails on saying that he would give better pay to the MCM employees and better positions such as a manager. Yet that wasn't the worst part. No, the worst part is that his secret blueprints for mimic code and endoskeleton got leaked to William Afton and Henry, the man that wanted him to suffer. Why? Well, my theory is that William Afton had a big crush on Fiona, and that's why he has such a personal vendetta towards Edwin. But Edwin starts to think about what his dad said and how he should always be cautious of those two. Edwin didn't listen then, but he's listening now, maybe. So with so much pressure and fear in his mind, he starts to have disillusionment about him and M2, his son. And then he would mimic his son's death and how he died, and this infuriated Edwin to the point where he started breaking the endoskeleton into pieces, especially breaking the legs and stuffing him into an MCM costume. But later on, William Afton took Edward's house and his entire factory due to not completing the contract. And so, in such distraught In disillusionment, he realizes his biggest mistake, the mimic. But then he realizes his second greatest mistake, his company. So he literally breaks the contract and decides to operate a demolition to destroy the building, and there he smashes the building parts where an unfortunate employee wearing Edwin's moon costume gets yeeted into the basement, where, we'll see him soon. Yet Edwin realized his third greatest mistake, the mimic schematics. And so he went to the room to go and get rid of the data, but the mimic was ready and prepared for Edwin, setting off a huge explosion where Edwin is drowning in cement, and the mimic brags about his new blades. Yeah, my wife Foxy's the mimic theory explains why these pirates' booty legs are on the mimic right now. And there the mimic kills Edwin, and the data for the mimic schematics were all burnt. M1 mixes knowing this through the security tapes, uses the dispatcher to bring more Fazbear employees to the location to get the mimic data in hopes that she could finally fix her family and finally put everything back together. At the end of the exhausting 36-hour shift, Fazbear Entertainment Incorporated technician Arnold receives an unexpected and urgent call for dispatch. A contracted engineer named Edwin Murray, owner and operator of an independent company called Murray's Costume Manor, has gone completely radio silent due to the lack of communication. Fazbear Entertainment declared Edwin's work abandoned and legally forfeited, reassessing ownership of the facility and its creations to the corporation. Arnold is ordered to enter the MCM factory to retrieve Fazbear-owned assets, although dispatch informs him that internal readings indicate someone or something is still present inside the building. Arnold is pressured into accepting the assignment, highlighting Fazbear Entertainment's disregard for technical safety. Arnold is equipped with a data diver, a specialized digital key that interfaces with the facility's systems and can be upgraded to grant higher levels of security access because the main industrial entrances are sealed. Arnold enters through a side door intended for guests and clients. Inside, he is greeted by the Welcome Show, a cheerful animatronic music performance designed to introduce costumers to Murray's creation. The performance abruptly malfunctions, trapping Arnold and forcing him to abandon the public-facing areas of the factory. From the security office, Arnold maintains contact with dispatch and learns the true nature of the threat inside the facility. The remaining entity is suspected to be a rogue endoskeleton known as the Mimic, a high adaptive machine capable of copying the size, posture, and behavior of any animatronic it encounters. Dispatch warns that the Mimic can hide within the many abandoned suits scattered through the factory. As Arnold explores further, Dispatch subtly implies that other technicians were sent in before him and none returned. This implication became horrifyingly explicit when Arnold discovers the decaying bodies of those technicians stuffed inside empty character suits, reinforcing Fazbear Entertainment partners of sacrificing employees in pursuit of intellectual property. As Arnold upgrades his data diver to reach the executive areas and retrieve the Mimic's blueprints, he uncovers the buried history of Murray's Costume Manor. Through audio logs, film reels, and internal communications, abandoned toys, and half-finished prototypes, these fragments tell the tragic story of Murray's family and reveal how grief and neglect poisoned the facility long before Arnold ever arrived. Throughout the factory, the Mimic relentlessly stalks Arnold, forcing him to rely on auditory distractions, hiding spaces, and environmental cover to survive. In addition to the Mimic, several animatronics that are not directly controlled but but still behave violently, suggest corrupted programming or residual emotional imprinting. Among these encounters is a particular unsettling figure, a ghost child like White Tiger. Unlike other threats, the White Tiger does not attack Arnold. Instead, it appears briefly in impossible locations and vanishes almost instantly, suggesting it is not bound by the facility's physical rules. Deeper into the game, Arnold gains access to the basement sublevel beneath the main factory. This area is colder, quieter, and heavier, distorted both visually and audibly. It is here that the White Tiger appears more deliberately, often at the ends of hallways or reflected in broken glass. The basement is filled with discarded concepts and sealed off failures, implying it is a place where Murray buried ideas that he could not bring himself to destroy. Many players interpret the White Tiger as a symbolic manifestation of David Murray, Edwin's deceased son, representing the innocent memory and unresolved grief rather than hostility. Another disturbing discovery with the facility is the presence of a moon-based employee costume, commonly referred to as the Moon Man. Unlike standard animatronic shells, this costume appears human-sized and assigned to be worn by a live performer. Logs and environmental storytelling suggest that Murray experimented with human-operated characters to create more lifelike interactions. However, the Moon Man costume is often found posed unnaturally and distorted reflections, implying that something may be wearing a mimicking the costume incorrectly. This character reinforces one of the game's core horrors: the blurring line between human performance and mechanical limitations, foreshadowing Fazbear Entertainment's later failures. Once Arnold reaches the highest security clearance and retrieves the Mimic's prototype blueprints, Dispatch issues his final command: return the data diver through the facility's inventory systems. At this point, the narrative branches depending on player choices you choose. If Arnold complies fully with Dispatch, he is allowed to leave the factory and return to the van. However, while driving away, the real Dispatch confronts him over the radio, accusing him of giving away company property and demanding explanation. The conversation becomes increasingly hostile, and Arnold is suddenly attacked from within the moving vehicle by the Mimic, revealing that escape was never truly permitted. Alternatively, Arnold can use executive-level access to execute a hidden program titled Parachute.exe. This unlocks a secret route at the security office and leads to a hidden section of the facility filled with unfinished prototypes arranged in a layout reminiscent of a familiar pizza. As Arnold navigates this area, the Mimic pursues him while Dispatch actively obstructs his path, sealing the doors and rerouting systems. Arnold eventually reaches a chamber housing a massive supercomputer called F10-N4 or Fiona. Here the truth is revealed. F10-N4 has been impersonating Dispatch from the very beginning. Modeled after Edwin's late wife, F10-N4 was created to preserve Murray's work and guide the facility. She refers to the Mimic as M2 and claims that only Edwin can fix it, asserting that Arnold must convince Edwin to do so in order to survive. Using access to tunnels, Arnold escapes into the Murray residence, a private home connected directly to the factory. As he solves puzzles within the house, the Mimic continues its pursuit. In Edwin's office, Arnold uncovers the final truth. The Mimic was originally built to comfort and praise David Murray after his tragic death. Instead, it absorbed Edwin's rage, grief, and neglect, ultimately reflecting his worst traits. Evidence of a violent confrontation, exploring damage and bloodstains, strongly implied that the Mimic killed Edwin in this room. With no other options remaining, Arnold enters Edwin's control room and activates Cradle.exe, a program originally designed to protect David. Instead, it initiates a self-destruct sequence across the entire complex. Arnold narrowly escapes through collapsing corridors and spreading fire, reaching his van only to be attacked once more by the mimic that crushes his car and leaves Arnold mortally wounded. The mimic suddenly retrieves the data diver from him and disappears, leaving his fate ambiguous at best. Beyond these endings, Secret of the Mimic includes additional outcomes tied to the game catalog, a terminal system presenting corrupted games that mirror real events within the factory. Partial completion of these entries leads to truncated and misleading endings, implying that Fazbear Entertainment simply records Arnold as another lost asset. Only by fully completing Moon.exe, which it requires collecting all necessary items across multiple playthroughs, does Arnold gain glitch executive access. This unlocks the game's secret ending, granting access to a sealed room within the Murray residence containing suppressed recordings and personal artifacts. The ending reframes the entire experience, implying the Fazbear Entertainment knowingly allowed repeated deaths in order to study behavior, obedience, and limitations. Ultimately, Secret of the Mimic is not just the story of killer endoskeleton, but a tragic tale about grief encoded into mechanics and corporation exploitation and limitation without understanding. But hey, tune in to me solving the FNAF lore using only the first 4 games. Come on, you know you want to click it. Clickety, clickety, click.